Muscular wealthy CEO, overcome with emotion after Black, Maid who save his life, gives him triplets. His phone buzzed against his hip. A text from an unknown number. Nice reunion. Shame it won't last long. Have you ever had someone from your past return with life-changing news that could destroy everything you built? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The most powerful man in Dallas opened his penthouse door to find 3 babies who looked exactly like him. The woman holding them was the same person who'd vanished after saving his life. She wasn't there for money. She was there because someone was trying to kill them all. Daniel Whitford stood frozen in his marble entryway, his $5,000 Italian suit suddenly feeling worthless. The woman before him trembled in a worn coat, clutching 3 car seats like lifelines. Her dark eyes, the same ones that had haunted his dreams for 12 months, now blazed with desperation and something else. Fear. Daniel, Ava Robinson whispered, her voice breaking like glass. These are yours. The babies stirred in their carriers, 3 pairs of piercing blue eyes blinking up at him. His eyes, his exact shade of winter sky that stared back from mirrors and boardroom reflections. The air seemed to vanish from his lungs. What would you do if your one-night stand showed up with triplets? Have you ever had someone from your past return with life-changing news that could destroy everything you built? When the past collides with the present, secrets explode like grenades in perfect lives. His mind raced back to that night. Rain-soaked highway, twisted metal, her hands pulling him from death's door. The hospital room where she'd kissed him with lips that tasted like salvation. Then morning came, and she was gone like smoke. How is this possible? His voice came out rougher than intended. Ava's hands shook as she pushed an envelope toward him. Inside, hospital bills mixed with legal threats and a single typed note that made his blood freeze. The brake lines weren't an accident. She was the real target. Now the children are too. The hallway suddenly felt exposed, dangerous. His penthouse, 40 floors above the Dallas skyline, secured with military-grade systems, now seemed like a glass house waiting to shatter. Someone's been watching us, she continued, her whisper barely audible. They know about the babies. They know I'm here. One of the triplets, a boy with Daniel's stubborn chin, reached toward him with tiny fingers. The simple gesture hit harder than any hostile takeover or billion-dollar deal. This was real. This was his. Stay tuned to discover why she really disappeared that night, and what enemy lurks close enough to destroy everything Daniel holds dear. His phone buzzed against his hip. A text from an unknown number. Nice reunion. Shame it won't last long. As he stared at the babies, one detail made his blood freeze. They all wore identical hospital bracelets with tomorrow's date. Someone knew they were coming. The elevator dinged behind Ava, and Daniel's instincts screamed danger. Without thinking, he grabbed her arm and pulled all of them inside his penthouse, dead-bolting the door behind them. "We need to talk," he said, his CEO mask slipping for the first time in years. "Right now." But as the babies began to cry in perfect harmony, their voices echoing through his pristine apartment, Daniel realized his carefully controlled world was about to become beautifully, dangerously complicated. 12 months ago, she was nobody special, until the night she became the only person who could save a billionaire's life. The memory hit Daniel like a physical blow as he watched Ava settle the babies in his living room. Her movements were different now, confident where she'd once been hesitant, fierce where she'd been gentle. Motherhood had transformed her into something magnificent and terrifying. February 15th, 11:47 p.m. Interstate 35. Ava had been driving home from her night shift at Pinnacle Tower, the same building where Daniel's penthouse now sheltered them. Her beat-up Honda struggled against the rain as she mentally calculated which bills to pay first. Then the Maserati appeared in her headlights, spinning out of control like a silver bullet aimed at the concrete barrier. Most people would have kept driving, called 911 from a safe distance. But Ava wasn't most people. She'd parked on a shoulder and run toward the wreckage, rain soaking through her cleaning uniform. The sports car was already smoking, gasoline spreading like deadly perfume across the asphalt. "Sir, can you hear me?" She'd pounded on the driver's window until her knuckles bled. Daniel had been conscious but trapped, his left leg pinned beneath crumpled metal. Through the spiderweb glass, their eyes met for the first time. Even injured and terrified, he'd been the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. "Get out of here," he tried to say. "It's going to..." The explosion came later, after she'd somehow found superhuman strength to drag his 6-foot frame from the wreck. They collapsed together on the wet grass, her body covering his as flames painted the night orange. That's when the electricity started, not from a burning car, but between them. Her hands checking his body for injuries, his fingers catching her wrist as she touched his chest. The way his breath hitched when she leaned close to examine a cut on his forehead. At the hospital, while doctors checked his injuries, they'd found themselves alone in a quiet corridor. The adrenaline, the closeness, the reality that they'd both almost died, it created a hunger neither could deny. Their first kiss had happened against the vending machine, desperate and sweet. She tasted like rain and courage. He tasted like danger and promises he shouldn't make to women like her. "I don't even know your name," he'd whispered against her lips. "Ava," she'd breathed back, already knowing this moment would change everything. 6 hours later, they were in his penthouse, the same penthouse where she now fed his children. She'd been nervous about the luxury, about the way he looked at her like she was precious instead of disposable. But when he'd carried her to his bedroom, treating her like spun glass and wildfire combined, all her doubts had melted away. Their lovemaking had been intense, reverent, desperate, like they both knew it was borrowed time. But dawn brought reality crashing down. She'd been in his kitchen, making coffee and trying to pretend she belonged in his world, when his assistant's voice had drifted from the balcony phone call. The brake lines were definitely cut. This wasn't an accident. Someone wanted him dead, and they're probably watching to see if they succeeded. She left before dawn, but not before overhearing his assistant on the phone. The brake lines were definitely cut. This wasn't an accident. That's when Ava Robinson learned that loving a billionaire meant painting a target on your back. She saved his life and then disappeared like smoke. But what she overheard that night haunted her for 9 months. Ava had grabbed her things and slipped out while Daniel slept, his face peaceful in the early morning light. She'd wanted to wake him, to explain, to stay wrapped in his arms where the world felt safe. Instead, she'd written a note she never left. "Thank you for showing me what I'm worth." The bus ride back to Birmingham felt like traveling backward through time. From marble and silk to her sister Maya's cramped apartment, from penthouse views to windows that overlooked the parking lot of a convenience store. But running had kept her alive. She was sure of it. 3 weeks later, the morning sickness started. "Girl, you look green as grass," Maya had said, holding Ava's hair back as she threw up for the 3rd day straight. "When's the last time you had your period?" The pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines that changed everything. Again, Ava had stared at those lines for an hour, her mind racing between terror and something that felt suspiciously like joy. A piece of Daniel growing inside her. A connection to that night that couldn't be severed by distance or fear. The ultrasound at 8 weeks had delivered the shock of her life. "Congratulations," Dr. Martinez had said with a smile. "You're having triplets. 3 babies. 3 little lives that would need everything she couldn't provide. 3 children who carried the DNA of a man someone had tried to murder." She'd worked double shifts throughout her pregnancy, saving every penny and avoiding anything that might connect her back to Dallas. No social media, no credit cards, cash only. She'd become a ghost haunting her own life. The babies had arrived on a snowy January morning, each one perfect and terrifying. The boy came first, screaming his displeasure at the world with Daniel's stubborn determination. Then the girls, quieter but no less fierce, with his blue eyes and her dark hair. But even in the delivery room, safety felt temporary. "Mrs. Robinson," Dr. Martinez had said quietly, pulling her aside after the birth. "There's something unusual about the baby's blood work. Genetic markers that, well, someone's been tracking their development. We need to discuss security measures." The words had hit like ice water. Someone knew about the triplets. Someone had been watching, waiting, planning. That night, while her babies slept in the hospital nursery, Ava had made the hardest decision of her life. She couldn't protect them alone, not from people powerful enough to sabotage brake lines and track genetic markers. She had to go back to Daniel. The doctor's words echoed in the delivery room. These babies, someone's been tracking their development. We have a problem. The trip to Dallas had taken every dollar she'd saved and all the courage she'd inherited from a mother who'd raised 5 children alone. But as she stood outside Daniel's building with 3 car seats and a heart full of terror, Ava knew she'd made the right choice. Some fights were too big to face alone, and if someone wanted to hurt her children, they'd have to go through their father first. The question was, would Daniel Whitford choose his comfortable, controlled life, or would he choose them? The enemy wasn't just after Daniel's fortune. They needed his bloodline, and now they knew exactly where to find it. Daniel's hand shook as he reviewed the evidence Ava had brought. Hospital security footage showing shadowy figures lingering near the maternity ward. Threatening notes left in her Birmingham apartment mailbox. Bank records of payments made to track her location. Someone's been following me for months, Ava said, pacing his living room while the babies slept in makeshift cribs. Every doctor's appointment, every grocery store trip. I thought I was being paranoid until... She pulled out her phone, showing him photos of her ransacked apartment. Furniture overturned, baby clothes scattered, formula containers emptied and searched. They were looking for something specific, Daniel said, his business instincts kicking into high gear. Medical records, DNA samples, proof of paternity. His mind raced through the possibilities. Corporate espionage was common in his world, but this felt personal. Desperate. The kind of desperation that made people do unthinkable things. The babies stirred, and Ava moved to comfort them with practiced ease. Daniel watched her lean over the makeshift crib, her body forming a protective barrier between the children and the world. Something primal awakened in his chest, a need to protect that went beyond logic or reason. "Who else knew about the accident?" she asked, settling back beside him on the couch. Close enough that he could smell her shampoo, cheap but clean, so different from the designer perfumes he was used to. "My assistant, the hospital staff, my business partner Marcus." Daniel paused, a cold realization settling in his stomach. Marcus handled the insurance claim. He had access to all the accident reports. Marcus Chun, his partner for 15 years, the man who'd helped build their pharmaceutical empire from nothing. The man who'd been pushing Daniel to invest in genetic research company for the past year. Genetic research that required specific DNA markers. DNA markers like the ones their babies apparently carried. "We need to get out of here," Daniel said, standing abruptly. If Marcus is involved, he knows about this apartment. The security, the access codes, everything. As if summoned by his words, his phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Heard you had some interesting visitors tonight. We should talk." Daniel's blood turned to ice. Marcus couldn't possibly know unless. The building's fire alarm began to wail. "That's not a drill," Daniel said, grabbing Ava's hand. "We need to move. Now." Through his floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see black SUVs surrounding the building. Men in dark suits speaking into earpieces. Professional, military grade, the kind of security money could buy for the darkest purposes. Ava was already moving, securing the babies with efficient terror. "There's a service elevator," she said. "I used it when I cleaned this building. It connects to the parking garage." Of course, she'd know the building's secrets. She'd mopped these floors, emptied these trash cans, invisible to the wealthy residents who never bothered to learn her name. Now that knowledge might save their lives. The nanny cam revealed the truth. Someone inside the building was watching them, and the betrayal came from the last person they'd suspect. As they reached the service elevator, Daniel caught a glimpse of the security monitor. Marcus stood in the lobby, speaking with the men in suits, his face calm and calculating. 15 years of friendship shattered in an instant. The elevator doors closed just as they heard footsteps in the hallway behind them. Moving into a billionaire's fortress should have felt safe. Instead, it felt like stepping into a beautiful trap. The safe house was everything Daniel's penthouse wasn't. Modest, hidden, anonymous. A two-bedroom ranch house in a quiet suburb. The kind of place where neighbors minded their own business and children's laughter echoed from backyards. Ava stood in the small kitchen, feeding formula to the triplets while Daniel installed additional security cameras. The domesticity of it hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't her life. She didn't belong in any world that Daniel Whitford inhabited, not even this temporary one. The babies need names, he said suddenly, looking up from the monitor he was adjusting. I can't keep thinking of them as baby A, B, and C. She'd been avoiding this conversation for 3 days. Names made things real, permanent. Names meant hope for a future she wasn't sure they'd survive to see. The boy is Caleb, she said quietly. The girls are Emma and Sophie. Daniel repeated the names like a prayer. Caleb, Emma, Sophie. His voice caught slightly on each syllable. They're perfect. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Then Caleb started crying, and the spell broke. Ava moved to comfort him, but Daniel was there first, lifting the baby with surprising natural ease. Something twisted in her chest, watching this powerful man transform into something gentle and protective over their child. You're good at this, she said, settling Emma and Sophie in their bouncy seats. I'm terrified, he admitted, but he didn't put Caleb down. I've run companies worth billions, but these three... He trailed off, looking helpless and determined at the same time. The admission cracked something open in Ava's chest. She'd spent months believing he wouldn't want them, wouldn't care about children that complicated his perfect life. But watching him rock Caleb to sleep, she saw the truth. Daniel Whitford was falling in love with his children, hard and fast and completely. We should talk about what happens next, she said, but her voice came out softer than intended. He looked up, still holding Caleb against his chest. What do you want to happen next? The question hung in the air like a challenge. What did she want? Safety for her children, obviously, but standing in this small kitchen, watching Daniel be gentle with their babies, other wants began to surface. Dangerous wants she'd buried months ago. The shower upstairs turned on, and steam began drifting down the hallway. Someone had left a towel on the bathroom counter, and she could hear Daniel moving around upstairs. She climbed the stairs to grab fresh clothes, but stopped in the doorway when she saw him through the frosted glass shower door. Water streamed over his broad shoulders, and her body remembered exactly how those shoulders felt beneath her hands. The towel slipped from her fingers as he opened the shower door, steam billowing around them like a cloud. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Ava, he said, his voice rough with want and restraint. Moving into a billionaire's fortress should have felt safe. Instead, it felt like stepping into a beautiful trap. But as he reached for her, water still dripping from his hair, Ava realized she was ready to be caught. Trust is a luxury when everyone around you has a price, and someone just paid theirs. The elevator climbed toward the penthouse, but Daniel's gut twisted with each floor. Something felt wrong, too quiet. His security team always checked in every hour, but silence had stretched for 3. Stay behind me, he whispered to Ava, shifting baby Emma to his left arm. The elevator doors opened to chaos. Furniture overturned, baby bottles scattered across marble floors, blood droplets leading toward the nursery. They found us, Ava breathed, clutching Michael and Joshua tighter. Daniel's jaw clenched. His head of security, Thompson, the man he trusted for 8 years, stood in their living room. But he wasn't alone. 3 men in black tactical gear flanked him, automatic weapons drawn. Sorry, boss, Thompson said, not looking sorry at all. Nothing personal, just business. How much did Marcus pay you? Daniel's voice cut like ice. Enough to retire in the Bahamas. Thompson shrugged. Kids, come with me. You two can walk away rich and childless, or dead and useless. Your choice. Fire exploded behind Daniel's eyes. Nobody touched his family. The next 30 seconds moved like lightning. Daniel shoved Ava toward the service elevator while hurling his phone at the nearest gunman. Glass shattered. Alarms wailed. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Move, move, move. Where now? Ava gasped, checking the babies in the rearview mirror. Somewhere they'll never think to look. Daniel's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. My ex-wife's beach house in Galveston. Are you insane? Won't she? She's in Europe for another month. Besides, sometimes the best hiding place is right under their noses. But as they raced through Dallas traffic, Daniel's mind churned with darker thoughts. Thompson knew all his safe houses, all his protocols, all his backup plans. How many others had Marcus bought? 2 hours later, they stood in the empty beach house, babies finally asleep in makeshift cribs. Ocean waves crashed outside, masking their voices. "We can't keep running," Ava said, exhaustion weighing her words. "Then we fight back." She looked up from feeding Joshua. "Ow! He has money, connections, people inside your own security team. He also has weaknesses." Daniel pulled her against his chest, breathing in her scent. "You taught me that. The night you saved me, you didn't have money or weapons or backup plans. You had courage." Her pulse quickened as his hands framed her face. "Daniel, I should have claimed you that night. Should have made you mine before anyone could hurt you." "You can't protect what you don't claim," she whispered. "Then I'm claiming it all," he growled, mouth hovering over hers. "You in them, forever." The kiss exploded between them, desperate and fierce. Salt air and fear and need crashed together like the waves outside. Her nails dug into his shoulders as he pressed her against the kitchen counter, their bodies remembering what their minds had been too busy to acknowledge. But as passion flared between them, neither noticed the black SUV pulling into the driveway across the street. Their children weren't just babies. They were the key to a billion-dollar breakthrough that people would kill to possess. Dr. Sarah Chen's hands shook as she read the lab results for the third time. 20 years in genetics research, and she'd never seen anything like this. "This is impossible," she whispered to her empty lab. The baby's DNA didn't just carry rare markers. They carried combinations that shouldn't exist in nature. Genetic sequences that pharmaceutical companies had spent decades trying to replicate artificially. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Dr. Chun? This is Marcus Webb. I believe you have some results that belong to me." Ice water flooded her veins. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The Whitford triplets. They're blood samples. My company has been tracking their development since conception." "Since conception? That's impossible. These babies are only 4 months old." Marcus laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Sweet Dr. Chun, did you really think their mother's car accident was random? That her rescue of Daniel was coincidence? We've been planning this for 2 years." The truth hit her like a freight train. "You caused the crash. You wanted their DNA mixed. Daniel Whitford carries genetic markers worth more than oil. And Ava Robinson's lineage traces back to a rare African bloodline that we've been hunting for decades. Together, their offspring are priceless." "For what?" "Cancer immunity, neural enhancement, cellular regeneration. Pick your miracle, Dr. Chun. Their blood can create it all." Sarah's mind raced. This explained the unusual protein structures, the accelerated healing factors she'd found in their samples. These babies weren't just special. They were evolutionary leaps forward. "You're talking about human experimentation on infants. I'm talking about saving millions of lives and making billions of dollars in the process. I won't be part of this." "Oh, but you already are. Check your bank account." Sarah's laptop chimed. A deposit notification for $2.3 million. "Consider that a signing bonus. There's much more where that came from." Or, his voice turned deadly quiet, "I can make sure you never work in research again. Your choice." Meanwhile, 70 miles away in Galveston, Daniel paced the beach house living room like a caged wolf. The babies slept peacefully in their carriers, unaware that their very existence had started a war. "We need to go public," Ava said from the couch. "Tell the media everything, and make them even bigger targets?" "No. Then what? We can't hide forever." Daniel stopped pacing. "We use their greed against them." "What do you mean?" "Marcus wants the babies because of their genetic value, right? What if we made them worthless to him?" Ava's eyes narrowed. "Ow, by giving away their secrets. Patent their genetic sequences under public domain. Make the research free for all medical institutions worldwide. Would that work? It would destroy any exclusive commercial value. Hard to build a monopoly when the source material belongs to humanity. Ava stood, moving toward him with predatory grace. You'd risk your own fortune to protect them? I'd burn every dollar I have to keep you safe. The admission hung between them like electricity. She reached up, fingers tracing the stubble on his jaw. Show me, she whispered. He lifted her onto the kitchen counter, standing between her thighs. Here, now, they're asleep, and I need to feel alive after everything that's happened. His mouth claimed hers with desperate hunger while his hands pushed up her shirt. She arched against him, forgetting danger and fear and everything except the fire building between them. But their passion was interrupted by the sound of car doors slamming outside. Through the window, Daniel saw 5 men in dark suits approaching the house. We've got company. Sometimes the people sworn to protect you are the ones you should fear most. Agent Rodriguez flashed his FBI badge through the front window, but Daniel's blood turned to ice when he recognized the face behind it. That's Thompson's brother, he whispered to Ava. What? My security chief who betrayed us. That agent is his brother. Ava grabbed the diaper bag while Daniel scooped up 2 baby carriers. Back door. Kitchen leads to the deck. Boat dock is 50 yards through the dunes. FBI, open up. We're here to help. Sure they were. Daniel had seen this movie before, and it never ended well for the good guys. They slipped out through sliding glass doors as the front door splintered inward. Ocean wind whipped sand across their faces as they ran. Babies miraculously still sleeping through the chaos. There! Agent Rodriguez's voice carried on the wind. They're heading for the water. Daniel's cigarette boat sat moored at the private dock, sleek and fast enough to outrun anything the Coast Guard could throw at them. He'd bought it during his rebellious phase 5 years ago, never imagining it might save his family's lives. Get in. He fired up the twin engines while Ava secured the babies below deck. Gunshots cracked behind them. Bullets pinged off fiberglass as Daniel gunned the throttle, launching them into the Gulf at 60 miles per hour. Where are we going? Ava shouted over the engine noise. Louisiana. My college roommate has a fishing camp in the bayou. But Agent Rodriguez wasn't giving up easily. Through the spray and darkness, Daniel spotted Coast Guard lights approaching from the east, fast and closing. They called him back up, he muttered, pushing the engines harder. The boat flew across waves like a skipping stone, jarring his teeth with each impact. Below deck, one of the babies started crying. Probably Emma, she always woke up first. I've got her, Ava called, but her voice sounded strained. 30 minutes later, they'd lost their pursuers in a maze of oil platforms and fishing boats. Daniel guided them into a narrow bayou channel, cypress trees hanging like curtains over black water. This is it, he said, spotting the familiar wooden dock. Bobby Tran emerged from the fishing camp with a shotgun, then broke into a grin when he recognized Daniel. Danny boy, what brings you to my swamp palace set? He stopped, noticing Ava and the babies. Oh, that kind of visit. We need to lay low for a while. How low? FBI, corrupt cops, pharmaceutical hit men low. Bobby whistled. Well, that's Tuesday night in Louisiana. Come on in. The fishing camp was basic but clean, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and enough solar panels to run the essentials. More importantly, it was completely off the grid. No cell towers out here, Bobby explained. Closest road is 12 miles through gator-infested swamp. Perfect for hiding from whatever kind of trouble follows rich boys around. As they settled the babies into makeshift cribs, Daniel caught Ava staring out the window at nothing. What is it? This feels too easy. Like we're exactly where they want us. Bobby's solid. I trust him with my life. You trusted Thompson too. The words hit harder than any physical blow. She was right. Unknown number. But he knew who it would be before answering. Miss me, Danny? Marcus Webb's voice carried across the Louisiana bayou like poison through clear water. What do you want? Right to business. I like that. Here's the deal. You have something of mine. I have something of yours. Daniel's blood pressure spiked. The babies aren't yours. Not the babies, you idiot. Though they're still part of the equation. A new voice came through the phone, elderly, frightened, but unmistakably familiar. Daniel? Sweetheart, don't listen to him. Just take the children, and... The line went dead. Daniel's world stopped. His mother. They had a 73-year-old mother who'd never hurt anyone in her entire life. Bastard, he whispered. The phone buzzed again. Text message with a photo that made his hands shake. His mother, sitting in what looked like a warehouse, duct tape over her mouth, fear in her eyes. Another buzz. Pier 19, Houston. Today at noon. Bring the babies, come alone, get mommy back. Try anything clever, and she dies slowly. Ava appeared in the doorway, reading his expression. What happened? They took her. They took my mother. Oh God. She sank into the chair beside him. What do we do? I give them what they want. No. Her voice went steel hard. There has to be another way. She's 73 years old, Ava. She has arthritis and high blood pressure, and she's never been away from her garden for more than a weekend. They'll kill her just from stress. And then they'll kill us. And take the babies anyway. Daniel stood, running hands through his hair. So what's your brilliant plan? Because I'm all out of ideas that don't end with someone I love dying. We turn the tables. Use their obsession against them. Ow! Marcus wants the baby's genetic material, right? What if we gave him something even better? There is nothing better. Yes, there is. Ava's eyes lit with dangerous inspiration. Us. Together. Making more babies. Daniel stared at her. You want to offer ourselves as breeding stock? I want to offer him the chance to control the entire genetic line. Think about it. He gets the triplets plus guaranteed future offspring. Why take a sample when you can own the factory? That's insane. That's leverage. She stood, moving toward him with predatory grace. But first, we need to make sure we're connected in every way possible. Ava, this isn't the time. This is exactly the time. Her hands found his chest, fingers spreading over his heartbeat. If we're going to sell ourselves as a package deal, we need to be a package deal. She kissed him with desperate intensity, pouring fear and hope and fierce determination into the contact. He responded instinctively, arms crushing her against him. The babies are still asleep. We have time. Their lovemaking was fierce and emotional, bodies claiming each other with the urgency of people who might not get another chance. She moved above him with fierce determination, taking what she needed while giving everything she had. I love you, she gasped against his throat. Whatever happens today, know that. Nothing's happening today except getting my mother back. Promise me something. Her eyes locked with his. If this goes wrong, if something happens to me, you'll take the babies and disappear. Don't try to save me. Never. Promise me, Daniel. I promise, he lied. 2 hours later, they loaded the babies into Bobby's airboat for the trip back to civilization. But as they navigated through morning mist, Daniel's phone buzzed with another message that changed everything. Plot twist, Danny boy. Your mother isn't the only grandmother these babies have. Check your email. The attached photo showed Ava's mother, supposedly dead for 10 years, very much alive and sitting in the same warehouse. The game had just gotten deadlier. The cavalry didn't come from law enforcement. It came from family loyalty and a sister's love. Ava stared at the photo until her eyes burned, memorizing every detail of the woman she'd mourned for a decade. That's impossible. My mother died in a car crash when I was 19. Marcus has been playing games longer than we thought, Daniel said grimly. The question is why? To control me. Keep me isolated, dependent, easier to manipulate. Fury built in her chest like a wildfire. He staged her death so I'd have no family support when he needed me. For what? This. All of this. The accident, the rescue, the babies. None of it was coincidence. Daniel's phone rang. Maya's number. Where the hell are you? Ava's sister's voice crackled through the speaker. I've been calling for hours. Maya, thank God. We're in deep trouble, I know. I'm in Houston with backup you're going to love. What kind of backup? The kind that's been documenting Marcus Webb's illegal activities for 3 years. Turn on the news. Daniel found Bobby's ancient television, flipping to a local news station. The headline made his jaw drop. Pharmaceutical CEO arrested in genetic exploitation scandal. The reporter continued. Marcus Webb, CEO of Gene Tech Industries, was arrested this morning following an FBI raid on his research facilities. Sources indicate evidence of illegal human experimentation, genetic trafficking, and conspiracy to commit murder. How did Dr. Sarah Chun grew a conscience? Maya's voice cut through their shock. Turns out recording your threats was a bad move. Marcus, FBI has everything. Bank records, lab reports, recorded phone calls admitting to sabotage and kidnapping. Relief flooded through Daniel, but something nagged at him. If Marcus is arrested, who has our mothers? His business partner, the real brains behind the operation. Ooh, someone you know very well, Daniel. Check your email. Daniel's phone chimed. The sender's name made his blood freeze. Victoria Whitford. His ex-wife. Victoria? But she's in Europe. She's in Houston. Has been for weeks. Watching you two play house while she perfected her plan. The attached video showed Victoria standing between both their mothers in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Hello, darlings. Victoria's cultured voice drifted from the phone speaker. Surprise. Did you really think I'd let you build a happy family on the ashes of our marriage? You crazy. Now, Daniel. Language. There are grandmothers present. Victoria's laugh sent chills down his spine. Here's how this works. You bring me those genetically perfect babies, sign over half your fortune, and disappear forever. Everyone lives. You refuse. She gestured, and two men with guns stepped into frame. Victoria, this is insane. We're divorced. Move on. Move on? You humiliated me in court. Painted me as a gold digger when I gave you the best years of my life. Now you're playing daddy with the help and their little miracles. Those babies are innocent. Those babies are my retirement plan. Marcus was thinking too small, one pharmaceutical company, limited profits. But genetic material this rare? I can auction it to the highest bidders worldwide. Ava grabbed the phone. Let our mothers go. Take me instead. Oh, sweetie, I'm taking everyone. Pier 19, 1 hour. Come alone or watch two old ladies die on live stream. The connection died. She won't honor any deal, Daniel said flatly. Victoria's always been vindictive, but this. Then we don't make a deal. Ava's voice carried deadly calm. Maya, how many people do you have with you? Enough. FBI is en route, but they're 20 minutes behind us. Then we do this ourselves. Family style. Daniel looked at her, seeing the warrior she'd become. Together. But as they raced toward Houston, none of them noticed the black helicopter following at a distance, or the sniper scope train on their airboat. Behind every puppet, there's a master pulling strings, and this one had been controlling Daniel's life for years. Pier 19 stretched into Houston's murky harbor like a concrete finger pointing toward hell. Daniel counted at least 12 armed men positioned around the warehouse, plus Victoria's silver Bentley parked near the water's edge. This is suicide, Bobby muttered, adjusting his rifle scope. Y'all should wait for the FBI. No time. Ava checked the babies one more time, sleeping peacefully in their carriers despite the chaos surrounding them. Maya, you in position? North side, 3 shooters down already. Maya's voice crackled through their earpieces. FBI is still 10 minutes out. Then we move now. Daniel kissed Ava hard and fast. Stay behind me, no matter what happens. Like hell, we're partners, remember? They approached the warehouse entrance, hands raised, babies visible in their carriers. Victoria emerged from the shadows like a queen holding court, flanked by gunmen and wearing a smile that could freeze blood. My dear ex-husband, still picking up strays, I see. Let them go, Victoria. This is between us. Oh, but it's so much bigger than us now. She gestured toward the warehouse interior, where both mothers sat bound to chairs, duct tape over their mouths, but eyes blazing with fury. Do you know what your little rescue angel cost me, Daniel? Enlighten me. $200 million in the divorce settlement. My reputation, my social standing, my entire future. Victoria's voice rose with each word. All because you decided I wasn't worth fighting for. We were toxic together. You know that. We were powerful together. I made you better, sharper, more focused. Then this nobody comes along, and suddenly you're... What? I've been watching you for 2 years. The car accident? My idea. Marcus just provided the muscle. Victoria began pacing, energy crackling around her like electricity. I needed Daniel vulnerable, needed him to feel like a hero for once instead of just a checkbook. Daniel's fists clenched. You could have killed us both. That was the point. If you died, I inherited everything as your widow. If you lived, you'd be grateful to whoever saved you. Victoria's Chirac. Either way, I won. Except I left, because you're not as smart as I gave you credit for. Victoria's eyes gleamed with malice. Did you really think finding you was accident? That getting pregnant was coincidence? I've been planning this since the day our divorce was finalized. The truth hit Ava like a physical blow. You drugged me. That night at the hospital. Fertility drugs. Very expensive ones. Had to make sure Daniel's swimmers found their target. Victoria examined her nails casually. Though I must admit, triplets were a bonus. Tripled the genetic value. You're insane. I am feral. Marcus wanted the babies for his pharmaceutical research. I wanted them for something much more profitable, leverage over the father. What do you want? Daniel's voice cut like a blade. Simple. Sign over 60% of your assets to me. Transfer custody of the children. Disappear forever. Victoria pulled out legal documents. Everyone lives, you get to keep some dignity, and I get my happy ending. And if I refuse? Victoria nodded to one of her men, who pressed a gun against Daniel's mother's temple. The elderly woman's eyes filled with tears, but her jaw stayed set with stubborn courage. Then we find out how much family means to you. That's when Maya struck. The warehouse lights died simultaneously. Emergency generators kicked in, bathing everything in red. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions as Maya's team moved like shadows through the chaos. Daniel tackled Victoria while Ava dove for their mothers, cutting zip ties with a knife Bobby had given her. The babies started crying, their wails mixing with shouts and gunshots. You bastard! Victoria clawed at Daniel's face as they struggled. You ruined everything. You ruined yourself. A gunshot cracked nearby. Victoria's eyes went wide, then empty. She collapsed, blood spreading across expensive silk. Maya appeared from the shadows, smoking gun in her hand. Sorry I'm late to the party. Is she? Very dead. FBI will call it self-defense when they see the evidence. Daniel pulled both mothers into a fierce hug while Ava soothed the crying babies. It's over. It's finally over. But even as FBI agents swarmed the warehouse, even as Marcus and his remaining men were led away in handcuffs, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that Victoria had one last surprise waiting. The feeling proved right when her lawyer arrived with a final envelope. Adoption papers she'd filed months ago, claiming the triplets as her legal children. Even dead, she's still trying to control us, Ava whispered. Then we make sure she fails. Daniel's eyes blazed with determination. Time to fight fire with fire. She'd spent months fighting for survival. Now she had to decide if she was brave enough to fight for happiness. The courthouse steps felt like a mountain as Daniel and Ava climbed toward their future. 6 months had passed since Victoria's death. 6 months of legal battles and custody hearings and sleepless nights wondering if some judge would decide their family wasn't worth protecting. You ready for this? Daniel squeezed her hand. I've been ready since the day I pulled you from that burning car. Inside, their lawyer smiled with genuine warmth. The adoption papers have been overturned. Victoria's claims were fraudulent, filed without proper consent. The children are legally yours, both of you. Relief flooded through them like warm honey. Michael, Emma, and Joshua would never be pawns in someone else's game again. But Daniel wasn't finished. Outside the courthouse, he dropped to one knee on the exact spot where they'd first kissed in the hospital parking garage all those months ago. Ava Robinson, you saved my life in more ways than I can count. Daniel, what are you? You saved me from that burning car. You saved me from my own loneliness. You saved me from becoming the kind of man who measures worth in dollars instead of love. You pulled out a ring that caught sunlight like captured fire. Now let me save you from ever wondering if you're loved enough." Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "You already did that. Is that a yes?" "That's a hell yes." The kiss tasted like new beginnings and old promises finally kept. Around them, cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions, but they only had eyes for each other. Later, in Daniel's penthouse. Their penthouse now, they celebrated properly. The babies slept peacefully in their new nursery, while their parents reconnected in ways that had nothing to do with survival and everything to do with joy. "I love watching you with them," Ava murmured against his chest afterward. "They're easy to love. They came from you. They came from both of us." She traced patterns on his skin, marveling at how natural this felt. "Do you ever think about having more? More babies? More everything. More family, more chaos, more love than we know what to do with." Daniel rolled her beneath him, eyes dark with promise. "I think about it every day." Their second round of lovemaking was slower, deeper, full of whispered plans and shared dreams. Outside their bedroom window, Dallas sparkled with possibility. "There's something else," Daniel said later, fingers threading through her hair. "What?" "I want to start a foundation for families targeted by genetic exploitation. Use Victoria's money to fund it." "She'd hate that." Ava laughed, the sound like music. "That's perfect. Evil's money doing good work. You'd help me run it? Try to stop me." But their peace was interrupted by crying from the nursery. Emma was awake, and she had company. Michael and Joshua were stirring too, like they sensed their parents' happiness and wanted to be part of it. Duty calls, Ava sighed. Best duty in the world. As they fed bottles and changed diapers and sang lullabies in the soft glow of night lights, both realized they'd found something rarer than genetic miracles or pharmaceutical gold. They'd found home. Just when they thought their family was complete, life had one more surprise in store. The morning sickness hit Ava like a freight train at exactly 6:47 a.m., sending her racing to the bathroom while Daniel juggled 3 demanding toddlers in the kitchen. "Mama sick?" Emma asked, her vocabulary exploding at 18 months. "Mama's fine, sweetheart." But Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs. They'd been careful, mostly, but passion had a way of making people forget precautions. 20 minutes later, Ava emerged from the bathroom holding a pregnancy test, face unreadable. "Well," she held up the plastic stick. 2 pink lines blazed like neon signs. "Surprise?" Daniel stared at the test, then at her, then at their 3 toddlers who were currently finger painting the kitchen table with yogurt. "For kids under 2 years old," he said slowly. "Technically, they'll be almost 2 when this one arrives." 4 kids, Ava. 4 kids, Daniel. They looked at each other across the chaos of their kitchen, sippy cups and scattered Cheerios and toy trucks creating obstacle courses across marble floors. Then Daniel threw back his head and laughed until tears streamed down his face. "We're completely insane," he gasped. "Completely." She kissed him hard, tasting joy and terror in equal measure. "I love you. I love you more." Not possible. The Whitford Foundation had grown beyond their wildest dreams, helping over 300 families affected by genetic exploitation in its first year. Ava had discovered she had a gift for organization and public speaking, while Daniel's business connections opened doors they'd never imagined. But success meant long hours and constant travel, leaving precious little time for intimacy. Tonight was different. The triplets were sleeping over at Grandma Robinson's house. Ava's mother, alive and healthy and making up for lost time, giving them rare privacy. "I've missed this," Daniel murmured against her throat as they moved together in their bedroom. "Missed having you all to myself." "You have me." She arched beneath him, reveling in the familiar weight and warmth of his body. Always. Their lovemaking carried new tenderness now. Awareness of the life growing between them, adding layers of intimacy they'd never experienced. He touched her like she was made of spun glass and liquid fire, precious and powerful simultaneously. "Are you scared?" she asked afterward, head pillowed on his chest. "Terrified." "You." "Same." She traced the scar on his shoulder from the car accident that had brought them together. But Good terrified, like standing on a cliff knowing you're about to fly. We're gonna need a bigger house. We're gonna need a bigger everything. The next morning brought reporters to their door, drawn by rumors of the Foundation's expansion into international waters. Daniel handled the cameras while Ava worked behind the scenes, but their partnership was seamless now, refined by months of working together. Any plans for more children? One reporter asked. Daniel and Ava exchanged glances, secret smiles playing at their lips. We'll take whatever blessings life sends our way, Ava replied diplomatically. But that evening, alone in their bedroom, she placed his hand on her still flat stomach. This one's going to be different, she whispered. How do you know? Mother's intuition. This baby was conceived in pure love, not crisis or manipulation or fear. Just us choosing each other. The best kind of surprise. The only kind worth having. Outside their window, Dallas hummed with life and possibility. But inside their home, everything centered on the quiet miracle of family expanding one heartbeat at a time. From victim to advocate, sometimes the greatest revenge is becoming the hero others need. The triplets' second birthday party filled their backyard with chaos and joy. Michael chased Bubbles with single-minded determination, while Emma conducted an elaborate tea party with stuffed animals. Joshua, ever the observer, sat in Daniel's lap, pointing at everything with serious concentration. "Dad, plane," he announced as a helicopter passed overhead. "That's right, buddy. Airplane." Ava watched from the porch swing, hand resting on her growing belly. 7 months pregnant and glowing, she became the face of genetic rights advocacy, testifying before Congress and speaking at medical conferences worldwide. "Remember when our biggest worry was keeping them alive?" Maya asked, settling beside her sister. "Now I worry about keeping them humble. Hard to stay grounded when you're worth more than most small countries." The baby's genetic material had indeed proven revolutionary, but under Daniel and Ava's careful management, the research remained public domain. Pharmaceutical companies could study it, but they couldn't own it, couldn't exploit it, couldn't turn suffering into profit. "Any regrets?" Maya asked, about giving up billions in potential income? "Never." Ava's eyes found Daniel across the yard, watching him flip Michael upside down while the boy shrieked with laughter. "Money can't buy this." Speaking of this, Maya gestured toward the organized chaos surrounding them. "How are you planning to handle 4 kids?" "Very carefully, and with lots of help." The Whitford Foundation's headquarters buzzed with activity these days. They'd saved over 1,000 families from genetic exploitation, funded research at 43 universities, and completely changed how the medical community approached genetic privacy. But success hadn't made them soft. Daniel still carried a gun. Their house still had military-grade security. Some lessons couldn't be unlearned. "Mrs. Whitford," their head of security approached with practiced discretion. "There's someone here to see you." Dr. Sarah Chun stood at their front gate, older and grayer than when they'd last seen her, but alive and free after testifying against Marcus's operation. "I wanted to thank you," she said simply. "Both of you." "For what?" "For showing me that doing the right thing doesn't always cost everything. My new job at the Children's Hospital, it's the best work I've ever done. We're glad you found your way." Dr. Chun knelt beside the triplets, who were examining her with the serious attention they gave all new people. "They're beautiful and healthy." "Perfect," Daniel said proudly. "Growing like weeds." "Good. That's how it should be." She stood, brushing grass from her knees. "I should go. I just wanted you to know what you've built here, it matters. The families you've helped, the changes you've made." Victoria and Marcus failed because they forgot that science should serve humanity, not the other way around. After she left, Ava found Daniel standing in their nursery, assembling a 4th crib with the methodical precision he brought to everything important. "Nervous?" she asked. "Excited. We know what we're doing now, do we?" He looked up from the instruction manual, screwdriver in hand. "We know how to love them. Everything else we'll figure out as we go." She kissed his forehead, tasting salt and determination. "Just like we always have." They started as strangers in crisis. They became the family that changed everything. 5 years later, Daniel stood in the kitchen of their expanded home, watching controlled chaos unfold with the satisfaction of a man who'd found his purpose. Michael practiced piano while Emma painted masterpieces on every available surface. Joshua read quietly in his favorite corner, and 2-year-old Hope conducted elaborate conversations with invisible friends. "Daddy, watch this," Emma called, executing what she clearly considered a perfect cartwheel. "Beautiful baby girl." "I'm not a baby. I'm almost 4. You'll always be my baby." Ava appeared in the doorway, home from another successful day at the foundation. Congressional hearings had led to landmark legislation protecting genetic privacy. Their work was becoming law, creating shields for future families who might face what they'd endured. "How was your day?" Daniel asked, pulling her close. "Senator Martinez wants us in Washington next month. Something about international genetic rights treaties. We'll make it work." They always did. Their partnership had evolved beyond romance into something deeper, a shared mission that gave meaning to everything they'd survived. Later, after stories and lullabies and the nightly negotiation of bedtimes, they found themselves alone in their bedroom, overlooking the city where they'd met. "Do you ever miss it?" Ava asked, settling into his arms. The simplicity of before 4 kids, a foundation, congressional testimony, and international treaties. Before all the responsibility. Daniel considered this, fingers tracing patterns on her arm. "I miss being able to make love to you without listening for crying babies. I miss sleeping past 6 a.m. I miss having conversations that don't involve negotiating snack choices. But I wouldn't trade a single moment. This life, this chaos, this beautiful disaster we've built, it's everything I never knew I wanted." She turned in his arms, studying his face in moonlight filtering through their windows. Even when Emma draws on the walls, even when Michael practices piano at dawn, even when Joshua asks 12,000 questions about how engines work, especially then, he kissed her slowly, deeply, with the reverence of years and the passion of first discovery. "You saved my life that night on the highway. But this, us, them, everything we've become, you saved my soul." We saved each other. Their lovemaking carried the weight of years and the lightness of deep security. No enemies lurked in shadows now. No genetic conspiracies threatened their children. They'd won, completely and permanently. "Still glad you pulled me from that wreck?" he asked afterward. "Every single day," she smiled back. Outside their window, Dallas sparkled with possibilities, but inside their home, they'd already found everything that mattered. Love wasn't rescue. It was recognition, partnership, and the choice to build something beautiful together. They'd built a fortress made of laughter and protection and fierce devotion. They'd built a legacy worth leaving. They'd built love's true measure, a family that changed the world by refusing to let the world change them. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe for more tales of love conquering all odds. Comment below, what would you risk for true love? Remember, sometimes the person who saved your life is the one worth living it for.